Print off the cuff. Presenting partner Edelweiss. Community partner FlexiRoundtables. Associate partner Uptik. Experience partner The Quorum. Gifting partner Vahadam. Beverage partner Shiva's Lux Collective Perfumes.
Wonderful to be back in Hyderabad for our second The Print off the cuff. And last time we had one kind of stellar guest. Today we have one from the exact opposite end. Although the expression stellar might fit him a little bit more aptly, because last time we had the chief minister who had just won an election, and now we have somebody who's dealing in the stellar world. He's launching rockets, and they are going to launch, his company Skyroot is going to launch India's first private rocket. Government of India has decided to privatize rocketry, which is very important because many of us know that anything that's left only to the government usually gets limited. I'm not saying it gets bad. ISRO is a wonderful organization. It gets limited, and India's needs are such that India needs many bright people doing this. And when India has wonderful bright people like Pawan Chandana, I will not say unfortunately, we are missing him, but his partner Bharat Dhaka has not been able to come because they are getting close to their launch, and there's a lot of last minute stuff to be done at the launch site. So he could not, he was needed at the launch site. That's the reason I did not say that unfortunately we are missing him. We are missing him for good reason. It's in everybody's interest that the launch is perfect. And then I spent the afternoon at his plants. I see a lot coming up, and I think one goes up and there will be many more to come. So once again, welcome to Off the Cuff, Pawan. And with me also is Soumya Pillai, who heads our science team. The Print takes science coverage very seriously. There is Soumya here. There's also Akanksha. Akanksha, just get up and wave. Also from the science team, they are both here. Soumya, you might have seen, just recently did the story on how over the past 16 months, the Pakistanis have launched 6 new satellites, all directed at critical areas in India. In fact, one of them particularly tilted in a way that it keeps an eye on Jammu and Kashmir and adjoining areas in Pakistan. Those are sort of strategic areas of strategic relevance. She also did a story last year that showed how one Pakistan-linked company had been buying images from, what was it?
Maxar Technologies.
From Maxar Technologies. I was about to use the other company's name. Maxar Technologies, and there was a pattern to it. And the last purchase was done. One was done 1 week before the Pahalgam massacre, and one purchase was done a few days after the Pahalgam massacre. To me, that sounds like somebody finalizing the spot, and then also looking at the escape routes and possibilities. So at The Print, we take science seriously, and that's why we are so honored that Pawan, I know you are busy. He's a very young fellow, he's, can I tell them your age? Or they may not take you seriously, right? Pawan is 35 years old, as is his partner, and they built this wonderful company which has just raised their latest round of money at a valuation of what, 1.2 billion, but there's many more billions to come. So once again, thank you very much, Pawan.
Thank you, Shekhar ji. Always warm to speak with you, and it was a great pleasure to have you at our factory, show you around, and also to the wonderful audience. Hello, everybody. And thanks for coming, and would love to interact.
Pawan, this is something I asked you in the afternoon, but let me ask you now on camera.
Yeah.
Sunil Gavaskar always says that no matter how many centuries you've scored, but when you go out to bat, before you face the first ball, you get butterflies in the stomach. So do you have butterflies in the stomach now?
Yeah, I mean, like until the launch day, it's going to be. And on the launch day, it's going to be even more severe. So, like you said, I can feel it. It's already happening, and excitement is also like building as we go closer. Yeah.
how unique does it make you globally? How many private companies are doing this? And are there other startups coming up globally that are doing it? We know about Elon Musk, so let's keep him out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think globally right now, companies who are regularly launching to orbit, rockets to orbit is around like, 5 companies, 4, 5 companies. And almost all of them are 20-year-old companies. And we're going to enter the club, in few days now. And and that too, an Indian company getting into that league is, I think, something which we at Skyroot are very proud of. To get that, and we're only in just not even 8-year-old company. So
Soumya?
Uh, Pawan, you guys have also become a unicorn, and in just a matter of 8 years, that's a big achievement in this space. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? Also, how has the journey been like for you?
yeah, so when we started Skyroot, right? So I never thought I thought uh, it would take 10 years. That time there was no policy in the space sector. There's nothing. I mean, you can design a rocket, manufacture a rocket, you can't actually launch it because there was no policy backing it. So I thought policy might take a decade. I may not be able to raise any capital because nobody knew what space sector is. And also I thought like tech may be very difficult, very difficult to build, for private companies to build. So I had very less expectations when we started, but big dreams. That's how we started. And then it's good to see, looking back, reflecting the journey, that bold step to start at a time when nothing was there. Literally, all odds of success was almost zero. If you look at that point of time, starting a private company and becoming a unicorn is almost negligible. And from there to coming here, raising the largest capital in this sector, and also becoming one of the fastest unicorns in the country, and probably the hardly any deep tech unicorns in India right now. So I think that is, I think, something which is highly linked to the bold step taken, long ago. And in fact, for me, it's just like a journey. For example, as we speak, as we celebrate a unicorn here, there's another company out there went public at $2 trillion. So which is and then there's the largest IPO in history, right? So I think the opportunity is massive if you tap it right. And we're in a very, very early phase at Skyroot, extremely early phase, making our baby steps. And then this is just like one of the one of the numbers in the path. Of course, we'll have a lot of highs and downs as we go, like any entrepreneurial journey. So don't like take it to the head. We don't take it to the head much on the numbers, but I think it's a great milestone for India and for space sector, and also, of course, for Skyroot.
Take us back a little bit to your time
Yeah.
at IIT and at ISRO. And when did this thought first came in that we might as well launch a rocket of our own?
Yeah. So firstly, like, since my school days, I always wanted to start a company. I grew up in a very, a normal middle class home. I grew up in Vizag, and my father was a central government employee. He was an engineer there. And I always dreamt of, I really liked entrepreneurs. I really liked entrepreneurs creating huge impact to the country. Always looked up to them and wanted to start a company of my own sometime in the journey. But then went to IIT, and at IIT, that time there was a startup movement. Like everybody wanted to start companies in 2007 to 2012 timeline when I was there in the college. Everybody wanted to start companies, and that entrepreneurial bug bit me at that time. And wanted to start. I thought like it's really without anything you can actually start with just an idea. You can start a company and make it big. Is the reinforcement which took place in college, and that time also like a lot of rising startups, many of them from IITs starting it. So that made me think that it's possible. And then, in fact, at that point of time, I thought I'll not even sit for placements. I will, start a company. But I didn't find the right idea, which gave me the calling to start a company. My passion was always technology, and I really love the space program because India has built our own satellites, our own rockets from scratch, over several decades. And I wanted to be part of cutting edge tech built in the country, and joined ISRO as a scientist. And then, in fact, at that time from IITs, everybody wanted to go abroad, or they want to take an MBA. They want to get into the other sectors, much greener pastures. But I never cared. Like, I thought like I really love, even though it's a government job, which most people may not choose. I took that unconventional path and said, this is my calling. I went to ISRO as a scientist, and the day one at ISRO, I entered a huge factory with big rocket stages, and that gave me goosebumps, and it felt like very satisfying, that I chose the right place. And then I spent like 6 good years at ISRO. I was part of the team, which built India's largest rocket. LVM-3 is widely called the Bahubali rocket in the media. So, and then after the first 2 launches, then on fine day, like a lightning strike, I got an idea, like, why can't we build a private rocket company? And then like that felt like marriage of two passions, entrepreneurship and rockets. And then that I couldn't sleep the moment I got the idea, and I felt that this is something which is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. The India needs it, world needs more access to space. That's it. And like, quit the job, took the leap of faith at a time when literally nothing was available. At that time, all odds of success seemed zero. And then started because I was all in. I was all in to start something, and knew that we can make it big at one point of time, but uh, take that long, patient route of making it happen. And that's the journey of how it started, Skyroot started.
And how was your experience raising money to find backing for it?
Yeah, I always say, raising money is like rocket science, so especially for our sector, because it's literally, just imagine like, going to investor and saying that I'm going to build rockets. People think you're mad. People think that there is like, it's the regime of governments. Why do you, what is the need for like, building rockets? How can a private company build rockets? Where is the market? What is it? So many questions. And then like, I was like you said, I was 27 years old when I started the company, and looking at a 27-year-old, people don't get that real hope that, we can build a rocket company. So it was very, very challenging to raise those initial set of capital. And but I think a good streak of luck, and also like I think India's entrepreneurial journey also helped in a way. For example, our first investor was Mukesh Bansal, and he has been a successful entrepreneur. He's like built Myntra, and then like transitioned to Flipkart, right? So, and he was an entrepreneur himself, passionate about space, and then he wrote the first check. Not a regular VC. So that I think that's with entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs, because he is able to sense that, is able to connect, sense that this is a risk worth taking, and just like you guys, and then want to start seed the journey. That's how it started. And then the next round of funding came from Hyderabad-based entrepreneur, Anil and Mahesh. Both of them, they built Greenco, largest renewable energy company, and in fact they led our Series A round, which is almost 100 crore round. And that also came in from entrepreneurs. It's like entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. The first 100 crores of the company came from all entrepreneurs. I think that seeded the journey when nobody was able to take that leap. And then policy came in, and then we did a trial launch, India's first private rocket launch. That was in November 18, 2022. Vikram-1 was launched successfully to space. And that was a historical moment for India, when a private company is able to design, build a rocket, and launch to space. It was a much smaller rocket, but we were able to achieve good success from there. And I think from there we were able to attract good institution capital. But still, I mean, we faced the brunt of being the first company raising capital in a very tough field, which most people don't understand. And it's literally rocket science.
So a country like India, what kind of launches does India need? How many in a year?
Yeah. So the nation's projections is to launch 200 to 300 satellites in the next 7 years. And it could be more. And so ambitions are pretty high. And that's only India as a nation. And globally, the requirement will be in like several lakhs. So millions. In fact, like SpaceX did a filing for 1 million satellites in space. There's just one company. There's Blue Origin. There's so many other companies which are building like constellations, which are in several large numbers. And all the governments across the world also is ramping up requirements in space. And for also for national security reasons, commercial reasons, and space is today $600 billion industry. Most people think space is like a domain of governments, but it's actually a $600 billion industry, set to become a $1.8 trillion industry by 2035. And it's a blue ocean. It's like a massive market if you can tap into it.
Yeah, it's also the way it's going up. Looks like there might be a traffic jam in outer space, because walking through one of his units. I also ran into somebody
Yeah.
who set up a startup for clearing space debris.
Space debris. He's
Space
here.
debris.
He's here.
He's right here? Right here, yeah, right. So satellites also have a life. They have to be given a decent burial or whatever. So there's a whole ecosystem that's coming up. Something I said I'll say about Hyderabad. Many years ago, more than 20 years ago, one Thursday night, Friday morning, I was in Bangalore. And Fridays, I write my weekly column, National Interest. And as always, I'm searching for an idea. So I was searching for an idea. And that was a year of very bad drought all over where I live, in North India, in Delhi, elsewhere. And that night, it rained in Bangalore suddenly. And the mood lifted up. And I thought for a moment that Americans give their cities names, right? New York is the Big Apple. Uh, something is for lovers. Something is whatever. Every city has a name. So if Bangalore was given a name, then it was Bangalore. Then what would it be? So I said, Bangalore will be will be India's happiness city, right? Uh, I think Hyderabad today is giving Bangalore competition because if I just count the new startups that are coming up or the young people that I see in Hyderabad, I think they rival what Bangalore used to be before it got really crowded. So you not only have a Bangalore in the making, but because you have something that Bangalore doesn't, you have land around Hyderabad and you have much better infrastructure. You might actually give Bangalore a run for its money. So I'm very happy to be in Hyderabad and I hope we keep coming here.
And to add to that, you can come from airport to here in 45 minutes in Hyderabad, you know. So, which I just did. So that makes it a fantastic city to be in, and like, fantastic land around as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So what changed with the policy that allowed people like you to come up?
Yeah. So during COVID, so COVID was the most depressing time for our company. At that time there was no capital. We were just trying out of the seed capital which we raised, and we are a hardware company. We had to move things around, and COVID, like everything got locked up, right? And at that time nobody was giving us money. We were unable to raise capital. Nothing was moving. No progress. And then the best part which happened was government announced various slew of policy changes to boost the economy. And one of the thing which has been in the books for a long time but announced, COVID happened to be the right time to announce because they wanted to boost the economy at that time, was the space policy, where government wanted to open up the space sector to private players, which is one of the best things which happened since the space program started in 1960s. When Dr. Sarabhai started the space program in 1960s, that was a revolution. 1962, starting a space program in India is like, at that time, just imagine India. And after that, the biggest revolution which happened in the sector is opening up the sector to private players, because we have built an ecosystem of 60 years, 6 decades of ecosystem. ISRO has done a fantastic job. We have thousands of suppliers being able to build high precision parts which can go into the rocket, which can go to space. And it has created launch pads, it has created infrastructure, it has created everything. So we have one of the best space tech ecosystems in the country. So the government thought, why don't we open the sector to private players? Let private investment come in. And can you believe, like, just in the last 3 to 4 years, we have almost $600 million of investment flowing into the sector, just in the last 4 years, just after opening up the sector. So it's a major boost which just come in, and almost employment has crossed like 5,000, 6,000 people, high-tech employment in the country, just in the last few years. And that is, I think, the revolution we started in 400 plus startups already, all in the last 3-4 years. It's a major boost which is brought. And space is very strategic to the country. Space is very strategic for India to go global, especially in deep tech, where deep tech decides the future of countries. And I always say, like, if steel has built modern civilization, space is going to build future civilizations. And then, like, we've done the government has done a fantastic job to open up the policy. And I think all the fruits are just started, but we're in the very early phase right now. Where in just few years, you see the fastest trajectory growth in any sector is being seen by space sector, thanks to the policy opening up.
Question in the back.
My name is Shweta. Myself, I am global head for IT platform engineering. So, as part of this innovative augmentation into the space world, what kind of leadership and what kind of generation you are actually trying to build as part of capability to be a global leader?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest growth paths right now in the space sector is how many of us use AI every day? Everybody, or most of the time is AI, right? So I think the biggest growth path now is more or less established in the industry is that the lowest cost of compute, in the future is going to be in space. So that means like you put data centers not on Earth but in space, and you get almost eight times more energy per unit area. You get more energy. That means you get 24/7 sun. And you get plenty of energy out there, immense amount of energy, free cooling to outer cosmos, and then you don't need land, you need permissions for like several years, and you can actually launch gigawatt scale of data center if you have the launch capacity and spacecraft capacity. You can do like build large data centers, and the lowest cost of compute will be in space because of the large energy availability and no water for cooling and etc etc. So I think that's the new emerging trend which space will enable. Like in fact, it's widely believed that AI can scale as fast as space can scale. So it's highly linked now. So the more intelligence we can bring down to Earth, that's mostly the scale is only going to be more and more with space in the future. That is one of the biggest growth factors in space, and is going to be one of the largest industries globally.
Pawan, you are preparing for the launch of Vikram-1, and which is why Bharat could not be with us today. Could you tell us a little bit about Vikram-1? What is the rocket going to be? You already had one launch around 3 years ago. How excited are you? What is the technology that is going to go up on space?
Sure.
And everybody knows why it's called Vikram. Does anybody have a doubt? Sarabhai. Because he founded India's space program.
Yeah. So in fact, we launched India's first private rocket called Vikram-1, named after, of course, tribute to Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, because he's been like a great inspiration for me when I was working at ISRO and starting the company. In fact, he was the entrepreneur who started ISRO at that time. That's where we had one of the top 5 space programs in the world. We went to Moon, Mars, Sun, everywhere. And then Vikram-1 is a test rocket. It is 2-storied building tall. Just imagine 2-storied building tall rocket. And it crossed 80 kilometers. Above 80 kilometers is defined by NASA as space, and it has crossed that, touched space, successful in the very first attempt. One of the very few companies in the world who have launched a rocket to space. This was 3.5 years ago. That was meant to prove technologies which can put satellites into orbit, which is the next step. And next step is Vikram-1, which is a much bigger rocket which can put satellites into orbit. It can launch up to 300 kilograms to orbit. 300 kilograms is like...
It's the height of a 7-story building.
Yes, and the rocket is 7-storied building tall, around 23 meters tall rocket. And I don't know, like people, how many of you have seen our Infinity campus on the road we made over travel? Yeah. Yeah, so you can see like the huge, life-size rocket out there, from very close to the airport. You can observe that rocket model out there. So it's 7-storied building tall, and it can launch up to 300 kilograms to low Earth orbit, which is like around 500, 600 kilometers. And this, in fact, most of the satellites, more than 90% of satellites are small satellites, which are under 300 kilograms, and this can launch these satellites to orbit. And also Vikram-1 is more like a cab to go to space. For example, if you see like the bigger rockets across the world, the SpaceXs of the world, they're more like the train to go to space, where all passengers have to fill the rocket or fill the train to go to a destination. But we are more like a cab. You can book the cab like you book the rocket like booking a cab, and then go to space to very unique destinations which nobody else goes. Right? It's a very unique orbit which are closer to your country, closer to your area of interest, or which can get more energy from the sun, etc., etc. So it's a very unique solution. And this is a pretty 7-storied building tall rocket which is going to launch soon from Sriharikota, India's spaceport. And super excited. In fact, I just landed today at 3 p.m. and I just came from the launch pad. Whole night I was working at the launch pad where we stacked the stages of the rocket. It's this history in making, which is happening in India. And soon, in few days, we're going to lift off, and that's going to be a historic moment where India's first private orbital rocket is going to take off from Indian soil and become one of the very few companies in the world to achieve it.
Before I come to the next question, can I request Mr. Ashok Atluri to please stand up. So, Mr. Atluri, I was talking about entrepreneurship in Hyderabad. That's one more young man from Hyderabad. Uh, what does he do for a living? He makes what? He doesn't make drones. He makes counter drone systems. Today's warfare is going to be about drones. You should be able to fight drones at a very mass level. So he set up a business, wonderful business, listed company, uh, lots of value, making counter drone systems and also making simulators for Army and Navy, and now going ahead for the Air Force as well, because training is now such a big deal. So I had the privilege today. Now what I do is when I travel to places where entrepreneurship is taking place, I try to find some time to visit these new entrepreneurs and founders. So I spent the first half of the day at his units, and I also fired some decoy rifles at some decoy targets, right? And I hit 0 out of 20, right? Because you get your count immediately.
But the pen is always mightier than the sword.
so so once again, introducing to you Mr. Ashok Atluri. You should be very, very proud of him in Hyderabad, because Indian Armed Forces so depend on him. We know that when Op Sindoor was on, he was somewhere there, because it was his equipment that was being used to stop a lot of those drones from coming in. So all power to you. Do you have a point to make or a question to ask? We'll get the
Just
microphone.
I had quick question was, there is a space where SpaceX is there, and they are you're right that they're 2000x your valuation. But what is it that which is unique from your point of view that the SpaceX is not doing or cannot do, other than India's, we are a beneficiary of India's sovereignty, defense sovereignty requirement. But is there any that more than that? Because I mean, are you globally competitive in certain edge which other companies cannot reach? For example, in simulators, nobody competes with us in the world, not only in India but in the world. But what is that edge which you say where we are number one in this, or we're going to be number one in something?
Oh, a fantastic question. This is, in fact, a very common doubt, in fact, first of all, congrats to you on your journey, sir. And it's amazing. We're all inspired by what you have done and what you're doing. And so what difference what we're doing is, in fact, like being a rocket company, launching a spacecraft to space itself is a very unique, capability which only have, as I mentioned, very few companies in the world are doing. And what specifically which we are different is, think of SpaceX like a metro. You come to one hub, so one hub to another hub, you choose a metro. But if you want to go to your friend's house, you choose a cab, right? So you book a cab. So our market is different. We are a cab to go to space, and they're more like a metro or a train to go to space. So it's a different market. So overlapping is a bit less, and this is a very unique solution. For example, there's a customer whose region of interest is somewhere, let's say, very close to the equator, and they want the satellites to pass over the equator. They have to launch to a different orbit, which is not a common orbit which most other people go. So they can't book a $70 million SpaceX rocket to launch to his own required orbit. Instead, they can book our rocket with just few $1 million, like a cab ride, and go to space. It's a very new niche market, which is a very large market, multi-billion-dollar market with only one player. And the only one player who exists in this is a $80 billion company, a US company, and nobody else in the world. And then we'll and hopefully, when our rockets start launching on a regular basis, by far, we will be very competitive in the global market, and the scale is also pretty large. I think Shekhar sir has seen our factory as well, and scale is also pretty big. And then we have done, I think, the quickest development ever in this sector. We've been very quick. And we've been build our own unique rocket which can be mass produced at very low cost. And that's just the beginning, and tomorrow we're going to build across the space sector various things, even much bigger rockets which can launch people, cargo, etc., etc. This is just a beginning of it. It's a very unique and niche market, which hardly any other player globally, and it also at price, cadence, and also capability, which also very few people have. Yeah.
Well, he's also a very good tour guide, I would say. Is there a question in the back, or yes, go ahead. That's Roli, our colleague.
Hi, Pawan. I'm Roli Kachru. We met.
Yeah.
My nephew is a young aerospace engineer, as I mentioned to you, Rohan Kachru. He works with Rocket Lab. So when I told him who our next guest speaker is going to be, he was very excited about it because his dream is one day to be an entrepreneur in this space. So he has sent me a question, which I'll have to read it out to you. So this is from Rohan. The space industry has reached a point where the challenge is no longer just proving that you can build a rocket, but proving that you can build a sustainable business around one. Looking 20 years ahead, do you believe that launch services will continue to capture a significant share of the value in the space economy, or will they evolve into a largely commoditized, low margin transportation service? If you see launch becoming more of a commodity, how is Skyroot positioning itself today to build long term competitive advantages beyond launch services? What capability or strategic investments do you believe will help the company create enduring value and avoid competing primarily on launch economics? Now you know why I had to read it.
Yeah, great, great. It's a fantastic question. I mean, I'm sure, like, he's in the sector, been in the sector, and is also dreaming big. And congrats to him and all the best to him as he starts out in this sector. And so Rohan, if you see, launch per se is in fact the center of the space industry. You can only do anything in space when there is a launch capability available. And it's in fact, like, for example, you can see the journey of SpaceX. SpaceX is able to do what they're doing only because they're a launch company. In fact, last year they've done 165 launches. That means one launch every alternate day. And majority of them for their own satellite constellation launches, which does almost $12 billion revenue, and their rocket launches do $5 billion revenue. So that means it's a and $5 billion revenue by giving just few launches to others, right? So I think it's a very, very attractive. The moment you have a rocket, and then which is very successful, you'll be one of the very few companies who has that capability. And world needs, I don't know, thousands and thousands of tons, and every year it's going exponentially more. The amount of tonnage or the amount of mass to go to orbit requirement is keep growing every year, and every year it's surprising. For example, 6 months ago, the market estimates were completely different. Now it's completely different, way far higher than what we imagined before. Every 6 months is like that. I've been observing the sector from several years now. It's the launch requirement keeps going and going, and I've been like, any space conference you go, any people you meet across, the biggest bottleneck for them, every satellite company's launch, availability of launch is the biggest bottleneck. And unfortunately, rockets are very tough. That's why it's called rocket science, and very few people will be able to do it. So there'll be very few players, and all these players will be doing very high margin. Like for example, SpaceX is one of the very profitable rocket program. They do fantastic margins in that business. So that's the whole industry will be like just few players, and all of them doing phenomenally well. And the ones they have the capability of launch, they can do much larger business with that launch capability. And that's the crux, So it's not a game which can be played by everybody. And in fact, for us, if you see, to get to an orbital rocket, the company was formed in 2018. It took 8 years of journey to get to a launch. Even though the rocket was being developed for 5 years, still it took like so much time to get there. Even SpaceX took 6 years to have the first successful launch. It's now a 24-year-old company to get to where they are today. So it's a very long run, and very few companies will be able to make it, and whoever makes it are going to actually have like phenomenal business as they can build.
Pawan, I had a follow-up question to what Rolly asked. You said that after the Indian space policy, there have been a lot of startups that have started coming into the space, various aspects of the space business. But most of the industry is still concentrated in satellite building. And the burden of launches is still sort of on ISRO. So how do you plan to capture that market? I mean, nobody else in the private space is doing it at your scale, or, the kind of plan that you have. Do you think that the launch business itself is challenging? What is stopping more startups to come into the launch part of the space sector?
Yeah. So in fact, like, and also to add on to the previous question as well, is that 70 to 80% of our market is global, So the Indian or Indian market right now, we project to be like around 20 to 30%, which is decently sized. But I think the majority of the market is global. And that's where, we're building a truly domestic deep tech product and service, launch service, which is truly global. So that's what Vikram series of launch vehicles are going to do. And mostly, these companies, our satellite companies are who build like Earth observation satellites, where the satellites have cameras in space, and then they give data and services. And the other set of satellites are like the communication services. They can create communication services across the Earth, which itself is a very large market. So in India, I think we are doing the first orbital launches or commercial launches as we scale up. And like I said, I think it's a very, very tough market because we have actually passed this journey of these years to get here. So we know how difficult it is. And when we started the company, I thought it can be done. And now I know why it's called rocket science, because it's extremely, extremely difficult actually to build, design, manufacture, test, assemble, take the rocket, get to launches. And like also they said, sustainably building a business from it is extremely tough. That's the reason why, the companies who have done it are, like SpaceX, $2 trillion company, right? So it's that I think that ceiling is so hard to break and go above. And we are on the journey to figure out a way to make it, big, and majority of the market is global.
Rocketry is not just complex science, it's also very complex precision engineering. Because if you look around, the tiniest part has to be absolutely precise, because something has to defy gravity, you have to defy atmosphere, you have to defy so many elements, burn so much fuel, face high temperatures. So engineering also has to be very, very precise, and that's where the vendor ecosystem becomes very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, like the next rocket which we're launching have more than 400 vendors, all of them in India. So it's like, that's the kind of ecosystem which we have in India, which on top of which we are building it. So again, thanks to Dr. Sarabhai, who started the ecosystem, and then ISRO for taking the legacy to where like they created, handholded many vendors to be able to capable to actually build a space economy today.
So my name is Satyakiran. I'm a professor in a business school in Hyderabad. There's a joke about the Indian IT industry. It says that the government did not understand what the IT industry did, as a result of which the IT industry grew. I'm sure there are many parts of the policy making that may frustrate you still. But my question is there any assumption about the commercial space industry that the government or policymakers don't get it or get it wrong?
Yeah, I don't see anything which they don't get it wrong. In fact, for example, one of the biggest enablers in our journey is the government. In fact, it surprised me when we launched India's first private rocket in 2022. I still remember I was in ISRO guest house the day before launch. Tomorrow is the launch, and I was still thinking that maybe it may not happen. Not because the rocket was not ready. Maybe there could be some policy bottleneck. Because till then everything was going smooth. I thought still I don't believe that in India you can actually make a rocket launch so easy, like especially from the government side, regulatory side. And in fact, we all grew up thinking that government creates more bottlenecks than actually enables it. But I think to my surprise, it really surprised me and changed all my perspective, especially how the space sector was dealt with. They created such wonderful regulations. In fact, I know countries where companies like us wait years of paperwork just to get a rocket launch authorization. And for us, zero delay. Previous launch, zero delay from the government. This launch, zero delay from the government. In fact, the government is so proactive that they follow up with us to do the launches faster and better. So I think it's a new India, I would say.
Well, also, I'm sure people in Hyderabad know that the Prime Minister himself came to inaugurate their manufacturing plant.
Good evening. My name is M.B.N. Rao. I was
He's an eminent banker.
former chairman and managing director of Indian Bank, and I was chairman of IBA. Thank you very much, Shekhar Kapoorji. You always bring us people like Pawan,
Gupta.
because we wouldn't have seen Vikram Sarabhai like this. So we are able to see a young Vikram Sarabhai here. Thank you very much, Shekhar and Pawanji. I want to ask you, because from my hair you could have seen, I have really seen the evolution of technology and how people grew. I financed entrepreneurs, technocrats like you, way back in early 70s. They were making components for the TV. I asked as a young man, maybe out of ignorance or enthusiasm, when do we get a multi-channel TV? At the time, it was only single, believe it or not. So he didn't say, somebody else told me from a very big industry Mr. Rao, not during your lifetime. Now, how many channels are there? We don't know. Similarly, the ITI, they wanted to increase the length of the cable, not come with a mobile. So you are just 35 and you invoked with the name of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. I request you think of 2050, not 2026, not 2027, because I think most of the journey in the human endeavor is in search of the resources. So not only as a launch company, I think you should make it as a destination company. Columbus went to America 5th century. You know what all happened and how America has been leading. So you not only get into the space, my request to you, you should reach out to the other planets in the space because you are already in the journey. You described that you are like a cab company. Cab company can definitely take there. Then you can imagine not only, the economic and military advantage of being in the space, reaching a planet somebody earlier than before. You are the owner, so you know the resources. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And in fact, like when you said TV, I want to, I just remembered that if you see the dish at our home, right? So, and we have thousands of channels, that was only possible because of space, because of satellites. And that has transformed the country, to a level which we can't imagine. Once upon a time, there was not even a single channel. Now there's every nook and corner, you have thousands and thousands of channels. That is, I think, one of the transformations which space has is brought to the common man down on earth. And definitely, sir, in fact, we are, in fact, the best attractive part about launch is actually going beyond. And in fact, today, we all think we are, as a Earth, we all think geocentric. I would say, generally, I say geocentric. We all think Earth is our universe only because gravity is there. We can't defy gravity and, go up. And rockets are the only thing which break this chain and go beyond Earth and goes to Spain, goes to space. And then every resource in the, in fact, the amount of resources we have in the solar system, you can't even imagine. For example, there's innumerable amount of gold, platinum, all rare earth resources. We can't even imagine the kind of resources. And the future, if you want, and humans are, expanding species, and the next frontier for humans is to expand beyond Earth. And you can just imagine, like, trillions of humans can only live beyond Earth across the solar system. Is only possible through space and space technology, advancements in space technology, and then getting resources down here. There's one very interesting startup recently. I think the name is Astroforge. They're creating spacecraft to bring platinum from asteroids to use it for semiconductors on Earth. They've already launched a trial spacecraft, and they're launching more spacecraft in the coming years. It's just happening right now. So it's like space is the moment you break the chains of gravity, and the whole universe, is the opportunity. And that's where, space, like I mentioned, steel has built modern civilization, space is going to build future civilizations.
Yeah, hi. My name is Dilip. I'm from Uptik and we are a fintech company. First of all, I really admire you guys because before Skyroot, I've never imagined a private player launching rockets in India, and you made that possible. So again, it is capital intensive and it is not easy to raise capital, especially initial ones. And you have done that. And I believe that you know the pain points in doing that. So my question is, what kind of financial ecosystem or the financial innovation do you want to see in next few years beyond VCs to make rocket launches more accessible and scalable?
Yeah, I think one thing which India needs in the journey of Skyroot, I realized, how difficult it is to raise capital. Like I mentioned, raising capital is like rocket science. We had to raise capital 1,300, 1,400 crores before the first revenue comes in the company. This is, I don't know, like, which startup had to do it. We had to do it because that's the nature of our business. And when we did it, I realized that, India needs that risk capital gap to be closed. And I recently saw an interview of Jeff Bezos. He says that why is America having the largest companies in the world? Because they have the highest access to risk capital in the world. People just take crazy risks which can't even imagine. That's what makes America what it is. I think India is now at time we have like the best talent in the world. In fact, Indian talent is, going across the world and, building everything else, outside of India. Right. But when we have so much talent out here, and many people now from brain drain to brain gain, people want to come back and work for the country right now. I think we need like absolutely risk capital is going to change everything. I think one of the biggest initiatives recently, thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister, he opened up RDI, 1 lakh crores, which is real money coming in right now, just announced, and real money coming into deep tech startups, especially, which is like, loans and, equity capital, which is coming into people, is going to completely transform. And that is just the beginning. And I think we need more and more risk capital coming into the country, which can really transform. And especially for space, not only rockets, anything else. I think we need huge risk capital to take that first 1,000 crore leap, without making a penny, because that's probably going to be $1 trillion company, maybe, right? So I think that risk capital is something which is missing, but I think I see it coming in the coming years. I hope like successful entrepreneurs here, definitely, build wealth and, and take that risk leap in the next phase.
Hi, Pawan. Myself, Dr. Kripa, I'm an oncologist. I'm not a deep tech person at all. I was and am staunch follower of all your interviews, sir. Like amazing for the great work you contribute to the society. And I watched almost all your podcasts, your recent interview also with the Raw Talks and all. I want to ask you two questions. So we can't compare your journey with Elon Musk's journey. Like he has already like a significant backup of the funds. 8 years and you're IIT graduate, lucrative offers, already a space settle in ISRO. So what was the one thing which was persistent in you to follow up this job? Were there any days of disbelief you just want to quit, but you just moved?
Great question, ma'am. So in fact, I think I always have this knack of like following an unconventional path. So when everybody wanted to go abroad or take up being a pastor, I chose a government job. And when everybody, in fact, everybody who joins ISRO retires at ISRO. Almost everybody. It is a fantastic organization, no doubt. But took a unconventional path to start a company. And when you start a company, start a rocket company. It is all like very unconventional paths. I generally don't somehow not go in the direction with most people choose to go at that point of time, because I knew that that's going to get crowded. That's really not very exciting to me. And so that I think that mindset really helped in making it happen. And when I chose this path, I'm ready for all in. I mean, as I mentioned, I was all in starting this entrepreneur journey. I know that it's going to be very bad days. We had, of course, a lot of bad days. I know that there'll be a lot of bad days going ahead. Ready for it and all in. So entrepreneurship is you have to be super brave, and there's no other way. There's no other way. You can build a great company. It's a 10, 20, 30-year journey, and it has to be. You'll fall. You'll stumble and fall, and the persistence to get back up and then keep running is, I think, that spirit has to be there. And I think that tests the passion every day, at building, especially a rocket company, where the competition is across the globe. You have to be the best in the world, to build a fantastic company, in this space, so you are competing with the best in the world. And in fact, India has a great advantage for us. And in being able to compete with the best in the world, we have phenomenal talent, infrastructure, everything else. So I think that's where I think a bet is the persistence and also the following an unconventional path whenever, always, so I think these two things are really, helped me in this journey overall.
From where did the name Skyroot come? What's the root of the name Skyroot?
Yeah, it's like we aim at the skies, but still, rooted on the ground. Rooted in the fundamentals. So that's good.
Hi. Okay, you have a follow-up, and you said you don't do deep tech, but
oncology is deep tech for us.
Oncology is the
That's what I'm
deepest of deep tech.
Yes.
So all of us have to be in awe of you as well.
What's
Please
your
go ahead.
contribution to the medicine? I heard your wife is a doctor, right? She's dermatologist, psychiatrist, something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there any bargain at home regarding the contribution of rockets to health science?
Not yet, but in fact, like psychiatry and space is very limited. I mean, it's very related, because in future, a lot of people are going to go to space. In fact, you'll have like job descriptions in space where you go work in space and come back after some time. So living in space, working in space is going to become quite common, because I'm from the industry. I know like where the trajectory is going. Maybe it takes few decades, but it's eventually going to happen there. And then I think psychology, or in fact psychiatry of a person living in space is very, very important. And also like space medicine, there is one thing in the mind and the other is like in the body. And space medicine is very important because you keep losing muscle in space, and when humans want to expand beyond Earth, you need to have a special kind of medicines which can actually make you live very long in space. So far, no contribution in that side of things, but eventually, as we start launching humans at one point of time in the future, we will definitely want to have some contribution on that side.
Hi, I'm Saniyat Kilaru. I work in the defense sector. I have a startup. My question was what tests or procedures you have to ensure the final launch is successful? Because if it fails, you lose a lot of money, right? So, is there a scaled down version, not a 7-story version, or any processes?
Yeah, I think the first thing is Vikram-1 launch, which we have done 3.5 years ago. It's a 2-story building tall rocket. It's much smaller rocket where we proved the tech stack, we proved the materials, propulsion technology, some electronics, etc. We proved in that rocket. That is the first step. And then when we actually build the main rocket as sections, we test all of them. Every component is tested. As a section, it is tested. We vibrate the rocket stages to ensure that real environment it sustains. You see that everything is working. We put them to thermal environment, heat. We subject them to moisture. We subject them to various kind of test, shock, so that we ensure that the real environment is tested and we are good. And then we connect all the rocket stages electrically connected. We see that everything is gone, all the signals are going well. The brain of the rocket is, well, the neural network is good. The muzzles are good. The actuators are good. Everything, we test everything as much as we can. But the real test is always a launch. So that's why, in fact, the next launch is a test launch. It is going to be something which we test the rocket in the real environment. That's the only way you can test a rocket. It is very expensive. And of course, no first attempts at orbit has actually succeeded without having prior heritage so far. In fact, the famous story of SpaceX, first 3 launches failed and fourth one succeeded. Almost was close to bankruptcy and the fourth one succeeded. And now, the largest company, one of the largest companies in history, right? So I think that's where it is. So testing continues with flights. And then, failure is progress. Failure is something which we learn and we keep progressing. And then we'll have consistent successes post that.
And what natural resource is the scarcest for making a rocket?
What natural resources?
Is the least available?
Is the least available? I think there's plenty of natural resources available. We can make as many rockets as we want. I mean, there's no dearth of it so far. And whether it is the propellants, whether it's the materials, I think it's ample. Yeah.
What I learned at his plant today was that India does not make carbon fiber, and his rockets are made of carbon fiber. So India imports carbon fiber, then India can process it, but India does not make carbon fiber. So that's fun area to go to. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm Kritik Vemery, an entrepreneurship student at a school here in Hyderabad. Mr. Pawan, you mentioned earlier that one of the biggest hindrances for you initially when founding Skyroot was the lack of policy in place for any sort of space-based startup. Now that that policy is in place and is actually beneficial, what do you see as the biggest challenges for any budding entrepreneur looking to enter the aerospace industry?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, right now is actually cracking the tech, because literally it's rocket science, like I mentioned. Whether you build rockets and satellites, putting up a constellation of satellites, building up is not easy. Building the tech stack right is a different level of rigor, engineering rigor. I would say it's not at all easy because we have undergone that rigor over the years to get here. So I think that's where I think most startups will face the biggest challenge. And now that there's no regulatory bottlenecks, I think the next biggest challenge is actually getting the tech right. And in space, you have to get it right every time. Maybe initial set is a learning, but after that, you have to get it right every time. And that needs a different level of precision. That needs a different level of mindset, different type of culture in the organization, right? I think building that recipe is, I think, the core.
Fair enough, I do agree with that. And speaking back on tech has really been innovating lately. We've gone from mostly RP1 based fossil fuel rockets that are purely expendable to fully reusable rockets running off of methane and hydrogen. So, what other innovations do you see in the aerospace industry that could be major drivers for its growth and opportunities for the near future?
So one, definitely, like you said, fully reusable rockets, where you don't throw away the rocket, you bring it back and reuse it like aircrafts, and that is going to reduce the costs where probably you can go to a tour one day to space and spend a holiday there. So that's one tech. And the other tech is, like I mentioned, is the data centers in space. Because the lowest cost of compute can get into space if you design, engineer these data center satellites well. And another is what Chiran is building is, removing debris in space, which is also a robotic spacecraft which goes, captures and brings it down, because as you launch more and more, you'll have more and more debris in space. And sustainability of space, space is now going to be very, very costly real estate, and then you have to sustain it. So all the debris, cleaning it, removing it, and ensuring that it's sustainable is the other hard tech.
I'm Dr. Dikesh. Here. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm biophysicist, but I work in the area of drug discovery. So I know the challenges of the finances there, but space is another beast altogether.
So is this a question that we have
Yes.
from you, from IISc?
Correct. Yes.
Likesh Sharma?
Yes.
All right. So
Yeah. But
Go
I have a
ahead.
different question because that got
Yes,
answered
yes,
already.
yes.
So my
No,
question
but
is,
it's wonderful to have a subscriber in our audience.
thank you.
And I want more subscribers to see this, so more of them come, because we invite all our subscribers.
Hi. So so my question is about we know only people like Elon Musk or big companies with big bucks can come in. So I just wanted to understand how are you able to do it, the financing part of it. You're using capex of ISRO. That's how you're able to do it with the funding, or you're funding somehow you've been able to accumulate funding almost equivalent of Musk, and that's how you've been able to do it. Like what's been the source here?
So see, I was a government employee. Okay, you can imagine how much money I made. Okay, so I have zero money. While starting, hardly any money to start. Of course, a little bit left where I thought in the worst scenarios I spend, sometimes to survive. But see, in fact, yeah, that's a different journey where which Elon had. Of course, he had been a very successful entrepreneur, and on day one, $100 million in that day time they had to build his company, and which also went into almost close to bankruptcy after 3 launches failed, and then they picked up, and then NASA gave a $1.6 billion contract, and it's all history today, right? So that's a different journey. So I knew that we can't have this journey because we have no money, and then in fact, like India's ecosystem, the space policy started very recently. You don't have the ecosystem, especially talent trained in this sector in the private industry, almost negligible. I would say there's a lot of great talent outside, but then still, to the level to build such large companies is still not there, and different challenges. So you have to solve the problem. No capital, very difficult to raise capital for on an idea which will see fruits after several years, and the first revenue starts after several years, and you spend 1,000 crores or like several hundreds of crores to get there. So there's a different set of challenges to build a space company, right here. So I think that's where we approach the problem differently. In fact, to build a successful company, it has to be a revenue generating, profitable, fast growing company. Simple, so that's why space is such a business. If you crack the tech right, and if you chose the right problem statements to solve, and that made investors invest in the company. Of course, initially the entrepreneurs took that leap. Later, large institutional investors, one of the largest funds in the globe, invested in Skyroot, and that's because the business opportunity is, massive. And also the tech stack which we are building is very unique. In fact, to build a new rocket company, probably people have to journey another decade. So it's the barriers of entry is so large. So it makes it very attractive for investors after you make a certain certain progress. So that way, I think it's a new journey. You have to unconventional journey. You have to solve the problem in a different way. All of these are issues to be sorted. But now I think SpaceX IPO has shown that it has opened up even more eyes now. So now regular investors who has never seen space at all, even after so much years of journeys, now started opening up to space because of the opportunity it opens, because something which has never seen before, it can be generated in space, and that too very fast growing companies can be generated in space with real revenues, profits, large markets, etc. So I think that's a different journey to follow, and then we followed that route, and getting investors, policymakers right aligned to make this happen. People build the right people to be able to make it happen. So we had our own journey to set all these foundations right.
So where do you get your talent from?
So it's like around 5% of the talent are like from ISRO or DRDO, have done similar work before, but 95% is built from scratch. Can you imagine? So that's been, I think, one of our core things which we had to do at Skyroot, which in fact we are very proud of. We generate over 1,000 high-tech people, high-tech, technocrats to the country, where like we had to build like people, either freshers straight out of college, brilliant freshers straight out of college, or people from ancillary industries, probably somebody who built an aircraft, somebody who built an automobile, somebody who's doing engineering services, somebody who's just passionate about tech, bring all them together, subject them to the rigor of rocket science, making rockets work, high precision engineering, extremely tough engineering. And then that itself is a big journey, which we had to cross. And then we made this happen. So we built, so to answer your question, we built the talent from scratch.
So,
yeah, hi. I'm Lakshmikant Goenka. I'm an entrepreneur. I do a lot of work in the AI space. Anyway, to come to the question, you spoke about reusable rockets. So, is that something that you plan to do? If not, how do you cost differentiate versus SpaceX, obviously? Question number two, in the AI world, right? Some years back, data was your differentiator. In the Indian ecosystem, when you're building the rocket, how much of data sharing happens with ISRO, for example? Or are you generating your own proprietary data, and does that eventually become your differentiator because no other company can really come in with all the simulation data and the real data that you have?
Yeah. So I think every rocket building is its own journey, and in fact, like we have not taken any tech transfer from ISRO anywhere. You build everything from scratch, everything from scratch, and then in fact, building a rocket is a very unique journey where you have to like build it from the beginning, from the scratch. It's even a technology transfer is even risky, because you have to own something else and then make it up and build from there. So I think building from scratch is the best, and every successful rocket company has done the same. And so that is with respect to building from the scratch. And the other question is?
So the other question was, how do you cost differentiate versus someone who's successfully doing reusable rockets?
Also, Pawan, I think he also asked about reusable rockets, right? So are you building that
So
as
you're
well?
truly a journalist, get it? So definitely it's in the roadmap. We will be building like reusable rockets, and in fact that's the future where you can bring down the cost per ton, to space, to a level where you can open up the space market to much wider. Things like data centers, astronauts, tourism, etc. And that's in the roadmap, and I think we'll be doing great progress on that in the coming years. And then when compared to cost, right, like I mentioned before, like if you have a unique satellite, you want to put it in a very unique orbit, right? So for example, it's like a cab ride, you want to go to a unique destination, right? So you have only two options today. So one option is you book the big rocket, put your small satellite in that big rocket, and it's a $70 million rocket to launch to your unique destination. Or you have pay a few $1,000,000, book your own cab, like you book your own rocket, and launch to like a private ride to space. So just few $1,000,000. So that's the kind of comparison of the cost, almost like 1:10 for these customers. So it's these specific customers. That's the cost advantage. But of course, when we like build reusable vehicles, etc., there'll be like a lot of overlap of technology. There, it's like how better you can do, how faster you can do. So that's where like the competition would be, because it's scarce. Launch is scarce. It's like gold, you can say. It's like very less launch available will be available. It will be there in the next 10 years. Launch will be less. Requirements will keep increasing, and it's always more.
Hi, Pawan. Nice to see you again, Shekharji. This is Shreya.
we are very old acquaintances. We met on the flight today.
Exactly. So I guess my question is regarding policy, because you touched upon the importance of
And
policy.
if I may add, she and her family, her father, they are running the port in Kakinada, the big brownfield port.
Yeah, so your cousin I knows my father quite well, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess my question is regarding policy, because you talked about the importance of policy for the commercial space industry. So what, according to you, is a policy change that you think would further, propel the industry, or conversely, a bit more controversial, is what is the policy right now that, or aspects of it that is restricting your growth? You can choose either.
Yeah, fantastic question. So in fact, so policy, like I mentioned, is fantastic. I mean, like what they have done in the last 3 years, especially in the space sector, phenomenal. And then what is the gap, I think, which can be filled, which is they're giving a very thoughtful focus on, which we ourselves are also contributing to that, is, in fact, if you see, one of the largest customers for a space company to make it sustainable is government. Government backing the top companies. Like for example, if you see SpaceX, they were struggling. Government gave them a $160 million contract or so, and then they gave a $1.6 billion contract later on. It's in the very early phase of the company, and then it's history. And now, in fact, America's access to send their own cargo and astronauts to the space station is only SpaceX today, right? So I think that has helped the country a lot, and that's where I think the government being an anchor customer is going to today. For example, our business models are built with global markets. Global market is very attractive, is good, right? When you have a domestic anchor customer by the government, because government itself has very large requirements over the years, and India is a very ambitious nation. We are competing with the largest countries in the world, so we have a very ambitious space program. So the moment we have that government market coming to the private industry is going to change everything. And in fact, what I generally envision for India's space sector is like one space program, right? It's India's space program. Don't differentiate between government and private. They're all part and contributors to it. And India today has a $1.5 billion budget for space. Is going to probably one day become $10 billion budget from the government. And that's how that budget has to translate a significant portion to building private industry, because that will make them the best companies in the world. Because India has a very special capability in space. May not be in many other sectors, but space is something which we have very strong capabilities in. India is the first country which has landed near the South Pole of the moon. India is the first country which has achieved Mars orbit in the very first attempt. India has gone to sun. India has our own rockets, our own satellites, everything. So India is one of the top space ecosystems globally. And I think we have a very fair chance to become one of the best ecosystems in the globe, build the best companies in the world. And that's where I think the anchor government thinking of it as one larger space industry or space program, not differentiate between government and private, I think is going to revolutionize the future space industry, and is very widely, deeply being thought about.
Hello, sir. I'm Arav, and I'm a student that's just about to begin my BTech journey at IIT. And I talked to a couple of seniors of mine because I was personally very interested in taking up aerospace. But I got very similar feedback from almost everyone. That was, aerospace is a very risky thing to take in India because you either have to go abroad or you have to settle for a relatively low paying job. And that immediately deters a student like me. So in this case, what do you think a mindset of a student like mine should be? Or and do you see this changing anytime in the future?
I mean, I will just add a little bit to that. When you pass out of IIT, would you rather go and sell toothpaste and shampoo, join FMCG, levers? Those are great companies. Or would you rather launch rockets?
I'm
Go ahead.
Kamlakar. I'm CEO of Power Dynamics. We work in the defense space actually. My question is, why do you choose Hyderabad? Now it is closer to the land site. Now you're having a previous ecosystem or anything. What made you to choose Hyderabad?
So basically, to answer the first question, see, I joined ISRO at a salary of 35,000 rupees. And so I think we should never think about the pay is what I feel. If you want to make it big, just follow the passions. You'll have a more satisfying life. For example, you think 16 hours of work every day. Work is passion, and then when you build your passions, you automatically going to grow big in that sector for sure. It's going to be exponentially big, and it's going to be very fast growth in any sector you choose. And aerospace now is not regularly what it was before. In fact, when I joined IIT itself, the same talk, don't join aerospace engineering, don't join because there's no much opportunities there. I think now things are changing. Like I mentioned, this just the space sector today has created employment of 5,000 people in the last 3 to 4 years. I think that's just the beginning. These policies come just 2 to 3 years ago. So I think Indian aerospace ecosystem is burgeoning right now. It's growing. It's a very good pace. May not be you may not get the equivalent salary where you get to probably a finance role, or some other greener pastures. But of course, that delta is where you take that risk, and then as the industry grows very big. And in fact, SpaceX has created, I don't know, thousands of millionaires. Right, so that's the journey. When you have so let's say 5 to 10 successful space startups in India, you'll have so many millionaires coming out from the country. So I think that's the bet I think we should take right now. And also why chose Hyderabad? I fondly call Hyderabad as a rocket city, because in fact there's a phenomenal ecosystem of manufacturers and test labs around. So while we are actually, our factories are all close to the airport. In fact, we have a lot of DRDO labs which we utilize for testing, and we have a lot of ecosystem of manufacturers around, thousands and thousands of suppliers, who can supply high precision parts. In fact, if you see, a good portion of ISRO supply chain also comes from Hyderabad. DRDO supply chain also comes from Hyderabad, and also a phenomenal talent in Hyderabad. I think very unique, good talent from Hyderabad. So I think fondly call it Rocket City. That's the reason why we are here.
I think also he's getting close to the launch site because he's also setting up a 300 acre unit near Tirupati.
Yeah. So that is very close to Sriharikota, which is the launch site, and which we are going to set it up soon.
So, well, good evening. This is M.A. Ashwaq. I'm practicing advocate High Court of Telangana, and also am a party spokesperson for TRS, the new party launched by Srimati Kalva Kundla Kavita Garu. Well, I'll try to ask you a non-legal and apolitical question. I'll try that. Will it hinder innovation and commercial agility if your business model goes to PPP, public-private partnership?
I think it will boost, I feel especially in space, PPPs are going to boost the business opportunities because government needs space, more and more space. And that way, I think, PPP model is actually quite a boost. In fact, government has just announced a couple of PPPs already, and which will be doing very well.
Yeah. So my question was, you mentioned cab and cadence. So what sort of waiting times will people have for this cab? And what sort of, launches do you plan in the next few years in terms of how many launches per year? And finally, I don't know whether you read this book by Arthur C. Clarke called The Fountains of Paradise. So do you envisage a space elevator at any time coming up?
Yeah, good questions. So the launch cadence, I mean, the factory which we built, which was inaugurated by the Prime Minister, has a capacity to build one rocket a month. Dream is to get to one rocket a month as quickly as possible. Maybe like few quarters, right? Let's see how it goes. And then like an ambition is of course to do more and more launches. And when we get to reusable vehicles, we get to multiple launches every week. That's the ambition and aspiration. But I think the first important step is to get to a launch a month as soon as possible with the factory which we already have. And then the waiting times should be like our dream is to get it to a few weeks. Right now it's several months. Sometimes it can go as long as 9 months. So, and for example, sometimes right now you don't even get a launch in 2 years. So that's the situation globally, right? So you want to make it the wait times to few weeks, maybe eventually to few days.
First of all, all the best wishes for the launch. And at the outset, you're an inspiration for a fellow 35-year-old who came back to India, after successful exit in US and Europe. So my question is, what is that one decision that you took for Skyroot that looked foolish at that time and have become a competitive advantage today?
Thank you so much. I'm Anirudh Jalan, one of the co-founders of Recycle. We're based in Hyderabad. My question, Pawan, we've been following your journey. When you were building something radical, how did you hire talent? And what sort of elements of building talent and culture do you carry today as you take Skyroot to the next leg of growth?
Great. I'll answer this question first. So in fact, like there's been talent building is actually very close to my heart, and in fact, I sleep well when I find a good talent that day. And as a ritual, many days I do 4 interviews. And that gets filtered. There's like multiple rounds of interviews, and it comes to me, and then like I do 4 interviews every day, most of the days as a ritual. And we have to invent our own ways to get the best people. And in fact, like what I typically see is the rate of learning, because skill can be built very quick. How somebody can look deeper, 2 layers deeper, 3 layers deeper, read between the lines, have better insights, and then have very good fundamentals. And then somebody who can pick things very fast and grow very fast is something what we look at. And also energy matters. Somebody who's exceptionally talented but doesn't have the right spirit. He thinks that ambitious goals can't be met, may not be the right person to go. So the mix of good spirit and also like phenomenal, deep thinking, deep insightful thinking, strong fundamentals are the way to go. And like building the talent is really, really tough. India is actually land of phenomenal people, exceptional talent, diverse talent, but actually filtering them and getting the best out of them, I think is something, a discovery of our own. It continues, the discovery keeps continuing, and building after joining, building them subject to the rigor. And actually in the rocket, one component is enough. There are trillion ways you do the permutations and combinations. There are like a zillion ways always a rocket can go wrong, you know. And so basically, and when hundreds and hundreds of people are working, eventually thousands of people are working on building a rocket, the rigor which is required and the thought process, the attention to detail, even a scratch mark, you know, can cause sometimes failures, you know. So observing that, discussing that, debating that, and actually solving that problem, you need a different, you know, league of talent altogether. There's always been a quest getting better and better at, like, you know, filtering talent, training talent, building them, creating the right mindsets, and creating the organization around that.
And the first question, what is the thing that you did that sounded foolish for once,
Yeah.
but turned out to be?
Yeah, I think first thing, even like to start Skyroot, you know, is like, you know, in fact, I had a lot of friends who wanted to start companies, and still they want to start companies, you know, so not yet started, you know, but that's what I've done, like, you know. So at that time, left everything in a very low probability scenarios, took that first step, started the company. That is 50% done. You know, 50% of the journey of Skyroot is done when I took that step to start the company. You know, so that is one. And after, during the course of building Skyroot, several decisions, the choice of the rocket which we chose, like for example, we chose to build an all carbon fiber rocket, you know, for example, you know, the first time it's being done in the country. And most people told, all the experts in the, you know, which we had access to, told that cannot be built in India because it's like never built it before. You know, that's it, you know, never built it before, will not happen is something very common in the aerospace industry because people stick to what is already proven, right? So never took that leap of faith, you know, and just said that we're going to nothing doing, we're going to build an all carbon fiber rocket. We had our tough times. It took several years to build. We built a super light rocket and helps us manufacture like anything, you know, low cost, super fast manufacturing, and, you know, globally competitive, you know, and then, like, you know, that opens up new opportunities which we never imagined. So I think that's what, like, choosing that architecture of toughness and difficulties, I think is a change. That is one of the several things which we have, you know, made an impact.
Hi, Pawan. Long time no see. I'm Chaitanya Mandavilli. I actually work at
By the way,
Skyroot.
he's our employee, and he says long time no see because I was the launch site for the last, I don't know how many days.
Well, he's also
Yeah, I'm an alumni
graduate
of-
of the Print School of Journalism. We have two more here.
Yeah, so I work at Skyroot. I'm the director of business development, and as
So,
Shekhar
you
ji
know,
mentioned,
we are like, हमारे आदमी चारों तरफ फैले हुए हैं.
and I'm an alumni of the Print School of Journalism. I took the course, amazing course. Anyone that's interested in journalism, I would highly recommend. And I'm also the nephew of the eminent banker, Dr. M.B. and Rao, as Shekhar ji pointed out earlier. So I'm basking in reflected glory here. My question is going to be simple. Just a little I want to add as well. Pawan truly believes in the cab to the space analogy that he mentioned. We had a meeting scheduled this afternoon, and he was busy with a number of things. So we literally had a meeting in a cab between our campuses. So my question is following that, just to break up the monotony of the very interesting questions around when are we going to have a meeting on our way up to space?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's 10 years away. You know, it's going to happen where, like, you know, we'll on the cab ride to space, we're going to have a meeting, and we'll have people working in space, I believe, and we'll have tourists. I think, like, you know, some of you hopefully we can launch. But of course, we are 10 years ambitious target is what we thrive on. Is so I think let's see how it goes. But I think world will have a phenomenal future once we are able to do a meeting in a cab to space, and it's going to happen soon.
I am Sudipta, and I have been with aviation for about 33 years. But now, of course, I'm doing something else. It is so wonderful, honestly. And many of my questions which were coming, they were getting answered, by the way. But now I feel you always talk about finance, of course. So when people like us, we are living in a time in India which is so exciting. So with so many things happening, including your startup and whatever that you are doing, how does people like us be part of your journey?
Cheer
We
for
all
us.
want to be a part of your journey. We want to. We cannot be VC like an individual level, but we do want to be part of your journey. How do we do it?
So one is definitely, I think, your well wishes. You have a launch coming up. You know, all your well wishes. You know, rocket launch, as I told. You know, zillion things can go wrong. You know, let's hope that, you know, less things go wrong as we go up. And best wishes from all of you would be, you know, wonderful. And of course, we can contribute even financially. So and probably as we go public in some time, I don't know when. But if we do happen to go public, I think that's typically something which larger pool of people, well-wishers, supporters can contribute to the journey. And of course keep watching and rooting for us. That's, I think, a great help. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Soumya has a closing question.
I think a good way to end this chat would be to get a glimpse of how promising the future is going to be. Vikram-1 is just the beginning. Vikram-2 is already on the works. How does the future look like for Skyroot? How many more rockets on the way? And how many launches are you finally aiming at once you scale up?
Yeah, so I think immediate next goal is
I think we saw Vikram 2 and 3 in the works.
Yeah. So Vikram-1, which is up to 300 kilogram capacity, so we'll get to one launch a month as soon as possible, and then even more launches per month is the goal. Let's see how it goes. And then we have a bigger rocket, Vikram-2, which is almost a ton to orbit. With a good portion of the rocket being similar. It uses a very advanced cryogenic propulsion stage. The rocket which is building everything from scratch at Skyroot, and then that will also have more missions going up. And so how many launches, very difficult to tell now, but the aspiration is to do many launches down the time. And then of course, as I mentioned, also we'll be building reusable vehicles which will even further push the boundaries of how much we can launch to space. And I think we imagine a future which we call it very fondly like a mission statement at Skyroot is to open space for all, for everybody. Opening space for everybody is our goal, and we'll not stop until we achieve it.
Well, thank you very much. You've been very patient, and particularly at a time that is so close to your launch. We are so grateful you found the time for us. We are honored, and we feel gratified that you have such talent, young talent coming up and taking the risks that I think most older people would not take. Only the young can take these risks. So please do stay young. And thank you very much, and thank you all.
The Print Off the Cuff. Presenting partner, Edelweiss. Community partner, FlexiRoundtables. Associate partner, Uptik. Experience partner, The Quorum. Gifting partner, Vahadam. Beverage partner, Shiva's Lux Collective Perfumes.